Hi everyone, welcome to this second video demonstration where we're going to look at the Technological, Pedagogical and Content Knowledge Model, or TPAC, and we're going to look at what it means to apply the TPAC in practice. Now for this video we're going to be looking specifically at technology knowledge, or TK, and we know from our previous work that TK, technology knowledge, CK, content knowledge, and PK, pedagogical knowledge, are all very much at the heart of good teaching with technology. So we need to focus on all of them at different times, and no one of them can be ignored. Now in this example we're going to look at what it means to expand our technological knowledge and what that then enables us to do as educators as we explore these different areas. So I wanted to go and have a look at this table that is from a study done by Ching-Sing Chai and colleagues, looking at the different elements of the TPAC model and what they call the knowledge constructs, in other words, each of the different areas. And you can see in this table, if we look at the top row, that TK, or technological knowledge, is knowledge about the features, capacities and applications of technology. So thinking there about the features, the key things that are available in that technology tool, thinking about its capacity, what is it capable of doing, and then of course its application, how do we apply it to teaching and learning. Now the example that they give is the knowledge about how to use Web 2 tools, for example wikis, blogs and Facebook. And of course we looked at Web 2 as the focus in the previous demonstration, where we looked at Google Drawing and how it could be used pedagogically for some advanced mind mapping. So that was a really good example of TPK, where we take our technology knowledge and we explore how it works pedagogically in different ways. So before we get to that though, before we get to the second types of knowledge like the TPK, the TCK, the PCK, it's really important just to think about our base level technology knowledge. If we go back to the slide that we explored in the lecture, for example here, how many of these technology tools do you know? Do you know what they're capable of doing? Do you know what the features of these tools are? Do you know how to apply them in teaching and learning? So that's really getting at what our technology knowledge is. And of course, the answer to this is, well, we can't know every single technology tool that's out there. There are just so many. We're never going to master every single one of them. So what it's perhaps even more important to do is to think about key areas where we do need to perhaps expand our technology knowledge. There's certain applications in the classroom that are really important, or that have become really important in recent years, where we know that the learning can be really enhanced if students do know how to use these technology tools, and if by extension we as teachers know how to guide them in terms of the use of those tools. So if we look at a key area, which is what we're going to do today for this particular demonstration, just to give a more of an applied focus here, video editing. This is an area that I know quite well because I have to, in my line of work, do various videos, and I have to edit and make them available. And this is an area where really, I mean, up until fairly recently, you needed to have quite advanced skills in order to do, but perhaps even more importantly than that, it was pretty much the domain of studios and professionals working within studios. If you wanted to do high-level professional style video editing, you needed to have an expensive studio with some expensive equipment. Thankfully, that is no longer the case. Thankfully now we live in a time when pretty much anyone who has an interest in say making a film or a documentary or a short some sort of short video piece, they can get access to simple tools and even quite sophisticated tools. So if you look at this image here, this is a pretty complicated looking interface, and I'm not going to necessarily have the knowledge to master such an interface straight away, but if I think about my technology knowledge with video editing, I can bring myself up to speed over a period of time and become better at it just by practicing and learning and Googling and looking at YouTube videos and so on, just to develop my technology knowledge. And of course, this might be something that I'm really keen for my students to be able to do, even though they may not have done it before. Maybe I want my students to have an experience of what it means to work on a video project and make quite a professional video for whatever reason that may be. So if we have a think about this, I'm going to show you a couple of tools that are really easy ways to get started with video editing. Now, the first one is this tool called Animoto. You may have heard of it. It's actually a website, and it's actually a web-based tool. Now, Animoto makes available a free Animoto classroom account for anyone with an EDU address, meaning us as teachers, we can get a free account, and this account basically gives you the full version of Animoto, and you can do whatever you like using the tool, within reason, of course, and there are no restrictions on the use of the tool. So it's a fantastic option if you're an educator or for your students, and you can apply for that. Once you've created an account, you can basically apply to have that upgraded to an Animoto classroom account, and I do recommend that you use an EDU address for that. Now I'm going to show you my videos. So I've got one sitting in here with my account, and this is just a demonstration video which I've done about the TPAC, just to demonstrate how you can use Animoto with that. So if we go to click continue editing, you'll see the kind of interface that we work with when we use a tool like Animoto, and it's pretty much what we call a storyboard style of interface. You can see the individual rectangles show me the different pieces of media that I've added, and in this video I've added a series of images, and then in relation to these images I've put in titles that come up. So for example, the first image has exploring the TPAC, the second image has this why question. You can see there's a timing indicator, so the first image goes for 11 seconds, the second one for 10 seconds, the third one for 13, and so you can adjust all of that simply by dragging and dropping in your images and then going from there. So you can see this is really, really simple. I've used the music track here to simply drop in a voiceover that I've recorded separately, and I've just dropped that in, and again, that's pretty straightforward. Now, the thing about Animoto that is really impressive is not only its simple interface that can be web-based, but also the fact that it has a mobile interface that you can access using either an Android phone or an Android tablet or an iOS device, tablet or phone. And using the device, you can easily edit videos, but even more importantly, you can add further media simply using the camera of your device. So in this case, using the web interface, I'd be uploading images to add them. If I was doing this on my phone, I could very easily just hit the plus button and simply add an image straight away from the camera, which means that you can do creating quite simple and effective videos using a cheap mobile device, which is really, really, really impressive, and a good reason why I would highly recommend Animoto for teachers who are just wanting to get started with making videos with their students in class. So this is a really great example. Now, if I hit the preview button and I generate a preview, you'll see it starts to play in a few seconds. My voiceover will start. You know, I can't help but think that in such a relatively short time, this model, this highly influential model, has had such a big impact on how we understand our work as educators. It's not enough to say, okay, I've got the technology skills needed. I can code a robot, or I can make a video, or I can put this presentation together. That kind of knowledge is important, but it's really not enough to have any lasting impact on students' learning. I might be able to get across to my students the basic skills of, say, video editing, but if I haven't taught them about the craft of making a video, or what it means to make a good science documentary, for example, then I haven't fully explored the possibilities. So you get the idea. So that's just been previewing there. And if I'm happy with that, I can then hit the produce button and then that video gets created and I can then download that to use later. So Animoto, fantastic, simple tool to get started with video editing. But if I go back to that image that I showed you before, this complicated looking interface, where I mentioned, you know, this is potentially a professional video maker. What about if I wanted to go deeper, if I wanted to explore this kind of level of making a video? Well, the good news is that thanks to free and open source software, this is no longer out of reach for many students and teachers. There are so many good, free, professional level video editing tools that are now available that will get you editing videos on another level, really. And one that I really love that I wanted to incorporate in this demonstration is Shotcut. Now, shotcut.org is the website that you go to, and it's a free open source cross-platform video editor. You can see by looking at this image here that it is quite a sophisticated interface that you're dealing with. It lets you do a whole lot more in terms of capabilities. So this is probably something that I want to start to explore if I want a good free solution that's going to work really well and going to give my students much more of a understanding of how videos are edited professionally. So I'm going to open this this video up now this video editing tool up now to show you what it looks like, so you can get a sense of what it would involve to create a simple video using this. So here we have the Shotcut interface, and I've just I'm starting a new project here, which I'm just going to call TPAC, and I'm going to hit the start button. Oops. And I'm just going to name it correctly. There we go. So I've got my TPAC project created, and now with this interface I can start to set up the project how I would like it. So the first step is going to be adding some media, and I've got those images sitting here in a folder that I'm going to add. I'm just going to add all the images first, and in they go as a playlist. Okay, so you can see they're right there. And now the first step is done, and I'm ready to start to put them into a timeline. So in this case, I'm just going to take the image, this first one, this TPAC model, I'm going to drop it down here, and in it goes. You'll see it creates it for about a 5-second length, but you can adjust that further and make it bigger, so I can bump it up to say 10 seconds if I wish. And then I can start to add other images. So for example, I might move from the TPAC to this Learn one. And you'll see I can just drop that in. Again, I can resize it. And if I wanted to now, I can actually do a very simple crossfading effect, which is actually very simple. It just involves taking this image and just moving it over the top of the other one. And you can see now I've got this little symbol to show that these two images are now going to be cross-faded. So if I hit the play button just before this one, the preview shows that it cross-fades nicely. So you can see here, it's relatively easy to add the images. I can drop these in. Again, I can resize accordingly, however I'd like it to be. And then I can just basically smash it into the one before just to create a simple crossfade, which is going to work beautifully. So you can see this isn't that complicated, and of course I just get the order right, or I can move things around later if I'd like to reorder, and I get my transitions in place. I change the size, and it's pretty straightforward. Now if I wanted to add my audio from before, the soundtrack that you heard, I'm going to go Open Other, and I'm going to go pick the MP3. It's going to start playing.
I can't help but think that in such a relatively short...
Now there it is. And then I can drag that and drop that into another... oops, I'm not going to do that. Instead, I'm going to basically drag that and drop that into another track. So I'm going to go right click, add audio track, and drag and drop that onto the audio track right at the start. And you'll see there it goes. So now I've got my audio there, and it's going to start to play with the images working at the same time. So you can see to get this sort of basic level is fairly straightforward. But of course, this is a professional looking interface. So there is so much more that I can do now. For example, I can set up multiple video tracks. That's something that I can't do using Animoto. And so I could have video that's basically if I had two cameras, I could have them switching from camera 1 to camera 2, or I could add in further video content and put images over the top of that if I wanted to. I can add titles, other transitions. I could add another music track if I wanted. And so this is going to let me do quite a lot more than I could do with Animoto, but at the same time isn't that hard to get started with. The bonus of this is too, if I learn how to use a tool like this, I can probably transfer that knowledge to other software applications. So for example, if in my work I was using Adobe Premiere, because I've learned how to use Shotcut, the skills are going to be quite transferable to another similar kind of professional tool. So you can see here, the sky's really the limit with this kind of knowledge, and I can develop it further as I go through various practice and reading more and looking at other YouTube videos and just basically expanding my knowledge. The next thing, of course, is also to apply this to other areas. So to start to look at good pedagogical approaches with video making, and look at what are some great strategies that some of the great video making teachers use, like different approaches to storyboarding, for example. I can also look at different content areas. So I might look at, for example, making film trailers in English when we're studying a book. And I might look at how I could do a simple one of those using Animoto, or I could do something a bit more complicated, like doing a full documentary, let's say for history, or doing a detailed filmed experiment in science. So you can see there's so many possibilities here. And as I increase my knowledge in this area, the possibilities only magnify. So hopefully you found this video of interest, and hopefully you can get started exploring video making if you haven't done so before, or if you have, maybe there's a couple of extra tools that you can start to explore to expand your toolkit and different approaches that you might use to producing and making videos in the classroom. Thanks very much for watching, everyone.